Coming. Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to format. We're going to kind of go over the plan, which a lot of you have already heard, but we'll go over the plan. If you'd like to make a public comment, please sign up there. After public comments, then we'll try to answer a few questions. But we'll try to move through this as fast as possible so everybody's questions can be addressed and stuff. With that, I'll turn it over.
All right. So, I think some of you have heard me a few times, so maybe I'll pass on to you when we get to that part. The decision for the deconsolidation, if the Board of Trustees were to make that, the plan is that it is what's in the best interest of children. Deconsolidation I've been referencing as going through the big D, and I don't mean Dallas lately, and in just with the divorce, as with deconsolidation, you have to put the children first and what the priorities and the needs of the children are in that deconsolidation. One of the pages that I'm adding to the plan, if you're checking our website, you'll see a draft 1 and a draft 2. That is the plan as it evolves through the feedback of these public hearings. And so there is a document that I'll be adding, and it's the rationale for that deconsolidation. So why? Why is the board considering this? That Idaho has many, many small districts across the state that take pride in their communities and therefore take pride in their school. That various groups of patrons of Mountain View School District have been discussing deconsolidation since even before the 2006 deconsolidation, where Riggins left the school district. Levy elections for the past 10 years indicated division in the district, where patrons, in what patrons feel is important. And as well as it's difficult in a diverse community to meet the diverse needs of those communities with 5 trustees that are spread out over a huge district. Mountain View School District literally, and I double checked this today, literally goes from Montana to Oregon. It is huge. And only 5 trustees have the voice of the people and the needs of that district. When a district is that large, it diffuses the voice of those 5 trustees. So creating smaller districts gives more voice to the people. It reflects more what the people need in the small communities. And then the smaller districts provide a larger level of local control for those districts. So that's the rationale. I'll be adding that. It'll be page 3 shortly, probably go up Monday morning. So the codes, there are multiple Idaho codes that control a deconsolidation. 33305 is naming and numbering of districts. So the proposed 2 numbers for Clearwater Valley School District would be 245, and Grangeville School District would be 246. Idaho County has assigned the numbers between 240 and 249. Idaho Code 33306 outlines boundaries of school districts, that you have to be contiguous, that you can't have parts. 33310 outlines the consolidation and specifically says what documents have to be in a plan and the fact that we had to have public meetings. Idaho Code 33311 it gives you the plan for consolidation has to be submitted to the electors. And I'll talk about the vote in just a minute. 33312 division of schools and that process. 33313 trustee zones. There has to be 5 trustee zones in all districts. And then 33402 the notice statements for the board for an election, and then 33505 Board of Trustees of newly constructed districts or newly created districts. So Clearwater Valley School District 245, you will see in the plan. The plan is on our website, and we're at draft 2 at this point. In pages 13 through 14, the Clearwater Valley School District would incorporate the communities of Kuski, Stites, Harpster, Clearwater, and Elk City. Based on the census, that population is about 4,600 people. And the Grangeville School District 244 would include the towns of Grangeville, Fenn, Mount Idaho, and Whitebird, and the census for that population is about 6,649. Trustee zones, again, 5. And currently in the proposed plan, it is looking like those would be the precinct boundaries. because the voters know their precinct, they know where to vote, they know their area, and the idea is to create the least amount of confusion as possible. So currently in the proposed plan, the trustees follow your precincts. As far as the finances, because that's really what it comes down to, right? As far as finances, proposed Clearwater Valley School District would maintain, so the market value, here's a great chart, I love this chart by the way, District 245, the Clearwater School District, would have a market value of $706,077,647. The proposed Grangeville School District 246 would have a market value of $919,790,169. And again, our current 244 has a $1,625,867,816. I used to teach 5th grade, and reading those numbers was what we taught. I loved it. All right, so proposed market value then, that separation is about 43% of the overall district goes to Clearwater Valley, and about 56% goes to Grangeville. That market value helps for that's your property tax values. So that helps balance the income if there were to be a levy. And then how the state funds us is in units, support units that are driven by ADA. The average daily attendance at the Clearwater School District currently is about 28.44%, which is 297 students. And for the Grangeville School District is 71.56%, which is 747.44. And overall for the district, it's 1,044 students. So that helps us to figure out the market value and the ADA, because that's what drives the rest of the funding formulas in the state of Idaho. Right, and so that's a little chart of the overall enrollment for those districts. My particular notes that I just flipped over doesn't have a set page 2. But I always have a backup plan. Okay, so unit calculations. This is a simplification and oversimplification, in my opinion, of the units and how the divisors work for the state of Idaho and funding. So for kindergarten, for instance, it's for every 40 students. That's based on really 20 students, but half day, right? So that's where that 40 number comes from. Elementary grades 1 through 5, and then secondary. It also includes exceptional child, which is special education, those services that are needed, additional services that are needed for children. It also includes administrative, which would be your administrators, those kinds of things, and it also supports secondary differently than elementary, recognizing that you have to have teachers for various subjects that are required for graduation at the high school level. And so currently, Mountain View School District has 65.02 units. In the proposed division, Clearwater Valley Elementary would have 21.43 units. And Grangeville would have 43.59. That follows along with about that 1/3, 2/3 that's based in our ADA. Again, with that number isn't coming from ADA. That's what the state of Idaho recognizes and supports for funding schools. Net apportionment. Again, this is for salaries, for teachers, for pupil services salaries. That's like speech and language. Administrative salaries, classified salaries. Classified, by the way, includes your paraprofessionals, your secretaries, your custodians, maintenance, district office staff, much of the district office staff, not all of it. So the current appropriation for Mountain View School District is $5,346,811. District 245 would have $1,833,941, and Grangeville District 246 would have $3,521,671. Carly, if I'm oversimplifying, just call me out. It's okay. All right, assets. Assets in the school district is your building and your supplies inside the building. And so the proposal says that if things are in Koosky, they stay in Koosky. If things are in Grangeville, they stay in Grangeville. And then the things that are shared, then those are divided on matching the ADA, the average daily attendance. Things that are shared in the district are some of our maintenance vehicles are shared. Technology is probably one of the largest things that is shared. And then also like textbooks, office furniture, as well as the district office. All of the furniture inside of the district office as well are shared items in the district. Consumable supplies, textbooks, extra materials, those kinds of things. In a school district, and then we just scrolled by a bunch of them, and feel free to go look at those. For instance, the funds that are coming to the school district for School Revitalization Fund, which is the legislature just gave us last year, or awarded last year, those will be divided appropriately following that ADA for the district. Division of liabilities. Liabilities in a school district, it's a service organization, so liabilities is your payroll. That's who you're paying to do the services. And so that, again, would be divided. Those at Clearwater stay at Clearwater, those at Grangeville stay at Grangeville, and then those personnel that are split, which are the superintendent, nurse, speech, language pathologist, federal programs director, special education coordinator, and special education teacher. Those are shared positions. And this is where when I get to the timeline, I'll talk about the year in between. That's when that superintendent and those two different trustees will have a lot of decisions to make. The trustees make those final decisions about what they need in your school district. A school district of those smaller sizes don't need all of the same positions of the same people, and so they're going to have to make some difficult decisions about, oh, we need this set up in this school district or whatever. Maybe for instance, federal programs, curriculum director, controller, superintendent. What the superintendent position looks like would be different with a district smaller than 241 currently is. And then other considerations are those other employees, which again, those are our service employees, like our custodians, maintenance, secretaries, paraprofessionals, and such. A critical timeline and effective date. So this is key. So originally, when the plan was being rolled out, the idea was that this plan would be written and approved by the Board of Trustees. If it was approved by the Board of Trustees, then it would go to the State Board of Education for approval in either December or January, at their December meeting or their January meeting. That approval just means you may go ahead and have an election, because who has the control are the voters. And so if they approve it in December or January, then the county is notified that we will have an election in May, and your ballot language is included in the document. And it simply says, are you in favor of the deconsolidation forming Clearwater Valley School District 245 and Grangeville School District 246? So then that election happens. That election is two prongs, and it's very important that everybody understands that. It first of all has to pass by a simple majority in the entire district. So all of the voters of 244, where did 241 come from? I actually wrote it a couple times today, that's why. So all of the voters of 244. That's the first prong of that election. The second prong is the smaller of the two districts. So smaller of the two districts would be 245. It would have to also pass there by a simple majority. So the two prongs are simple majority in the entire district and simple majority in the smaller of the two districts. If the election passes in both of those, then the timeline for deconsolidation is a year and 2 months later, July 1st of 2026. That seems funny, like, whoa, why did you have all that time in there? Why not just do it right away? Well, there are things like contracts with our food services. For instance, Chartwells provides our food services, our IT contracts, a lot of our curriculum contracts. So the district would need time to make wise decisions about going out to contract RFPs for those and awarding those new contracts so that they make the best fiscal decisions in that timeline. So again, the separation, if it were to pass all of those steps and get to deconsolidation, it wouldn't happen until July 1st of 2026. In this packet that you find online, you will also find maps. You will find, and there's a link to the GIS map that the county has. That thing is amazing. Spend some time clicking around. There's tons of information, but it's in layers. So you really have to dig into that map. There are also copies of the resolution, the notice, the ballot, additional data that you can look at some charts there for data to compare. And then also there's a question and answer section at the very end that you might want to look at. Okay? That was the
Great.
20,000 foot overview.
Yeah. All right, let's take public comments.
We have Butch.
I almost heard that.
Do you want them in a certain
You can't
place?
afford one microphone and speaker?
Yeah.
But
if you-
anyway,
But could you come share over here next to this?
huh?
Could you come share next to this camera? That'll pick you up pretty well.
Right there?
Yeah, you could look at them or
We just want your voice to be
just
heard.
nearby is fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, board.
Good to see you tonight. Hearing, it's kind of tough back there, but anyway. My name is Butch Swore. I live up outside of Stites. And I don't know where this concoction come from, but I'll tell you right now, I'm 100% against it. Because what I see down the road, the big losers in this are the kids. There's no hard numbers where the funding is going to come from. Who's going to raise my taxes, da-da-da-da-da. What's it going to cost me? I can afford it, but I'm fortunate. But there's a lot of people in this neighborhood and area that can't. So, you know, this consolidation was 70 years ago, or right around there. I'm happy with the system the way it is. Because kids are going to school. You guys threatened, because of the levy, to close this a while back. No skin off your back. But anyway, no, I'm looking at it. You know, there's several guys that I'd like to look eye to eye here that isn't here tonight. Larry Dunn and John for one of them. But anyway, this looks like a perfect train wreck to me. And this area, granted, is hard to get levies passed. And I'll guarantee you that's not going to change. But you're going to sit there in your chair, well, we'll just close the school. So, that's all I have.
Rosella.
I'm Marcella Pogue from the Kuski area. I went to the Elk City meeting last night, and it made me have more questions about that I would like to see if you could answer. I would like to know why are we in such a hurry? Why is it so important that this pass and go into the May ballot? Is it not workable that Elk City could have an election and they could decide on what they want and that be stated and put this on the November ballot? Those are my two biggest questions. I'm wondering about what if Elk City, where would be the numbers? Is there any way we could see numbers for what if Elk City went with Grangeville, what would be our taxes here? What would it be if it went here? What would the taxes be in Grangeville? Is there any way to see those numbers before we all say yes to this or no to this? That would be what I would like. Thank you.
And lastly, Cam.
My name is Cam Lucas from Harpster. We live the same distance from Kuski or Grangeville. My question is, if a student wanted to attend Grangeville for some reason, something that was that they didn't have in Kuski, let's say, would the student be able to, or the parent be able to make that decision of which school district he attended?
We'll address that.
Okay. The next question that I had was, if that scenario did happen and Harpster was in Kuski School District and the student went to Grangeville, how would that affect the tax of the parent?
Well, that's it.
Do you want me to answer the last two questions?
Sure.
That would be great for that. Yeah, let's go with
Okay,
that.
the last two questions I'm going to answer in reverse order. So, open enrollment in Idaho, we currently have an open enrollment law, which means that any student in Idaho can enroll in any district that they want. There is the caveat that if that school has a program that is full, then like let's say that sixth grade is super full one year, then they don't have to accept sixth grade students. And so there is protection there. However, additionally in this plan, there is a section that says any student who is currently enrolled in an out-of-boundary school. So if they live in Grangeville but are enrolled in Kuski for whatever choice their family has made, or they live in Kuski and want to go to school in Grangeville, if they're currently doing that, that they can continue in the school that they're currently attending through their career, so that they can finish up, and we don't want that disruption of having to make a kid switch schools. So the question was, can a student live in one district and attend school in the other? Yes, they can. There's a law that provides that. Further, we're protecting those kids who are currently enrolled so that they can continue. And then as far as taxes, so how schools get most of their funds is through average daily attendance. So if the student lives in Harpster, but their family chooses to enroll them in Grangeville, that child would be counted in the ADA, average daily attendance, of the other school. So there is money that would flow to the school that they're attending because they're attending there. However, any property taxes that you pay in Harpster goes to the school district that represents Harpster, which would be, in this plan, Clearwater Valley School District. Did that answer your questions, both of them? Okay. Now the next one, if we can see numbers for ECC, can we see the numbers if ECC Elk City Elementary, that was my shortcut, sorry, goes with Grangeville. We don't have those numbers right now. That would be a directive from the board for us to go to the county to help produce those numbers for property values. They would have to determine a line, and then the county would have to identify what those property values were for that line. So the answer is, I don't have property values right now, if we split that.
I can give you generalities,
Oh.
but it wouldn't be, take it with a grain of salt, okay? Why don't you go, will you go to the, what is that page, whatever that chart is?
This one?
There you go. Okay, so the way the way it's split now with Elk City going with Clearwater Valley, if you look at the market value per ADA, you have about a 2-to-1 advantage. So 2,300,000 whatever that number versus the 1,230,000 number. So because this will be the smaller district with as far as student population, there's economy of numbers and stuff like that. We wanted to give the Clearwater Valley District as much as an advantage as possible. So and it's about a 2-to-1 advantage as far as property value per student in the Clearwater Valley. If we had, let's see, if we put Grangeville and Elk City together, it would be, these are numbers that I had before. The numbers I had before were about a 2-to-1 ratio from when we had the Elk City with CV, and that would be 1 million per student in Grangeville and 2.2 million per student in the Clearwater Valley. If we put Elk City with Grangeville, it would be like 1.2 and 1.7. So it would change from like 1 million per student and 2.2 million per student to 1.2 and 1.7. Does that kind of give you an idea?
1.2 in Grangeville
And 1.7 in this Clearwater Valley. So it'd go from like 1 million per student and 2.2 million per student to 1.2 and 1.7 million per student. Does that make sense?
Sorry, do you have the market values? Because I could do some calculations while you guys talk about other things.
Well, I just had it, I had the old market values. I had old market values on the old, like when we made a new, when we were deciding, can we put Elk City with Grangeville, Elk City with CV, and those are the math. I just wrote them down just for reference. So that, you have to take that with a grain of salt, but you can kind of see the difference. We were trying to give the Clearwater Valley students as much of an advantage of property value as possible. And by combining Elk City with CV, that's what we did.
So, if I can answer Butch's. Butch, can you hear me? You might come up here. That might help you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or I can yell. Either way. So Butch, a couple things you said. When we consolidated these schools, it was because we needed buildings built, and it helped money-wise to have it consolidated. So now our buildings are built, and so we are deconsolidating, because I don't know about you, but you said it's been working, but it's been kind of mass chaos the last 7 years. I don't know if you feel that way, but yeah. So I feel, I mean, I've been here a long time. Well, not that long. There's a lot of people that have been here longer, and it really hasn't been working the last 5 years either. And so we have listened to you guys, and we were trying to find how to make it the most affordable for the Kuski Elk City precincts and that Clearwater Valley new district. So currently our 100,000, so like when you have property values and you're assessed at 200,000 after homeowner's exemption, you pay $390. Well, let's say you had $100,000. So per 100,000, the cost is $185 for the levy as it ran for this year and next year, right? The 2 year, okay? So with Elk City joining Kuski and becoming CV, the Clearwater Valley District, it goes down to $115, oh my gosh, per 100,000. So that reduces your responsibility quite a bit. Okay, so it makes it more affordable in these economies that everybody's struggling in. And so that was what we looked at. Tyler and Lacey were the ones that did all of the work on this. It wasn't a light decision whatsoever. We're not just sitting here, you know, just haphazardly making these decisions. It does matter to us. We do have skin in the game. We all have children. It does matter.
There is no perfect plan.
Yeah.
Someone's going to be upset no matter
Right.
what we do. We're trying to find the best possible scenario.
I would also like to point out that the numbers being used for the levy, they're based off of this year's levy amount. Again, reiterating what Superintendent Holdhouse said, the new potential boards or for the proposed districts would determine what the school district looked like, and the levy amounts would be different. That is truly for the levy amount for this year and next year.
Yes.
Because you would have 10 board members for what, a year?
For 1 year, there would be 10 board members. 5 would make decisions that impacted Clearwater Valley. 5 would make decisions that impacted Mountain or Grangeville. And then if there's something that has to be decided for the one final year of Mountain View School District, the 10 would work together to make those decisions.
And then with Rosella, last night we had a meeting in Elk City, and the same amount of, I mean, almost, it seems like a wash that, like Tyler said earlier, no matter what we do, somebody's upset. So the same people that said last night, oh, we would pay $230, we'd pay an extra, $60 per 100,000 for us to join Grangeville. There's the same amount of people telling us they don't want to pay more. They want us to be as efficient as possible and responsible for their money that they're paying for their taxes. So no matter how much time we spent going back and forth, we hear just as much from both sides on so many things, and this is one of them. So the people in the room last night at Elk City, some of them were for it, some of them were against. You know, some wanted Grangeville, some wanted CV, but that's how it is all the time. And there's probably just as many people that would vote later on for joining CV. So we really have to look at the numbers and try to be as responsible as we can with taxpayer dollars and not affect the kids' academics.
Unless you bring the 100 homeschool kids back, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I just, quick question, is there gonna be a back and forth where we can ask questions as they come
Yeah.
to mind?
Yeah,
The
but
next
we're,
29 minutes.
yep,
Yeah.
we're gonna close down at 7, so yep.
Okay, so, knowing that there's open enrollment in Idaho, knowing that ADA
is the largest driver of student funding for districts. If we split the district boundaries the way they are, yet a good chunk of kids from Stites, Harpster, Elk City, when they go to high school, choose to go to Grangeville. Grangeville gets more money for ADA, meaning to run current status quo, our ADA numbers in the Clearwater Valley School District drop, meaning the levy amount has to go higher just to run it. That is going to be a driver as well when you start doing boundary lines. So
But that's already
Exactly.
happening. That's already happening right now.
it is.
The
but it's
kids
gonna
can
happen
already go to
more.
Grangeville.
So the one thing you have to look at is if we're running with less down here and Grangeville has more programs up there, you're going to see kids leaving here to go to Grangeville or to Cambie 7 miles down the road just for that reason if we can't fund the programs here. So it could put this district, the Clearwater Valley District, in a crippled situation almost if it starts to lose students.
And again, that's
Just
why,
food for thought when you're thinking about this whole deconsolidation.
and that's why, because of numbers, we wanted to give you everybody as much advantage as possible as far as property value.
Not just the tax dollars now, because it's going to change immensely if kids leave district.
Additionally,
Yeah.
that open enrollment law does say that schools can set limits. And so, yes, in this plan, it says if you're currently in a different district, you can stay there through your career.
That's not open to everyone, and Elk City would have that opportunity. But each school sets their limits, like you can have 40 third graders and 40 fifth graders, and other programs too can set limits, like your special education and Title I programs. So the schools would have limits, and one of the things that those trustees in that year would have to do is determine what those load limits are and set those limits.
right, I know with the new enrollment numbers for the high
So
school.
the high school's going up by about 75 kids for classifications. It gives Grangeville a lot more buffer to accept them for the high school level.
Oh, those load limits aren't set on
No, I know they're not,
classifications.
but that's like Cambie will stop when they go above to the next classification for sports and different things. Grangeville has a lot of room for growth if
I-
it chose to.
Right, I would hope the trustees, and I believe in the trustees.
I believe in human nature, that they should set that number on what's best for kids and learning. And so really that load limit should be what's best in the classroom, not what's best on the football field.
And this year, how did enrollment do in CV High School? Have you guys had a lot of kids come back? How many?
What's your current enrollment? High school enrollment's 121.
And what was it?
I thought it was 172.
I think we got 18 or so back.
And
Yeah, something like
That's testament
to good leadership, thank you.
Our elementary's down though, we were at 140 last year, we're at 116 right now.
And we're not here to promote deconsolidation. I mean, do your homework and see what you think's best. Vote
Please
for
do your
it.
homework.
But do your homework, that would be great.
Yeah, Dan Fabi, I live down here in Kuski. Just one question I had was, are there positions at the state legislature that you have to have? You have to have a school superintendent, you have to have certain positions. And then another one was, I think quite a ways back when one of the initial deconsolidation meetings was, hey, how are some of these other school districts getting away, or not getting away with it, but how are they operating with organizational structures like Potlatch or Salmon River or something? Has the board, or have you guys done any sort of modeling to hey, if we had kind of an organization like Salmon River, what it would cost and could we survive if we had an organization like Potlatch or some of these other neighboring school districts that would be similar in size to a new Kuski school district? Have you guys, I guess those are my questions, any modeling of those?
So this district is the exception, not the rule. Most districts operate on a more more local level. And so, I mean, all those that you talked about, Potlatch, Salmon River, go down Council, Cambridge, Midville, most of them operate on a smaller level. So they're doing it all over the state. They found ways to do it. Now you have to get creative. You might have to combine the superintendent and principal duties and HR and, you know, whatever duties. You may have to get creative when you get down to that smaller level, but it's done time and time again. I mean, we are the exception, not the rule. So it's working all over the state. You just have to find, you know, you'll have to figure out how to do it if we deconsolidate.
And it's done more affordably for those towns. So like Cul-de-sac, Lapway, Craigmont, they share a business manager. So it's way less for them. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it more affordably than we're doing now.
I have a question, and this is for Charlie. Do we currently get for average daily attendance per child, per student?
Well,
And how would that change if we deconsolidated?
that would go back to this support unit. So our average daily attendance drives our support units, and our support units give us the funding. So as Mountain View 244 stands right now, we have 65 support units. And then if the proposed districts were to happen, CB with Elk City would have 21.43 support units, and Grangeville would have 43.59 support units. Those support units translate down here to our instructional staff, our pupil service staff, our administrators, and classified. And so, like for the proposed CB district, 21.43 support units. Each support unit gives us 1.021 instructional staff, so our teachers. And then that's based off of and then we times that by their average salary that the state's allots for. So again, people can understand it, trust me, but it is complex. And so that's what drives the average salary is based on a number of factors, years of experience, a bachelor's or a bachelor's plus 24 credits or a master's. And then, so we times our certified staff units by that average salary to get that amount. And that's just salaries. And then on top of it, the state also provides the trailing benefits. Same situation with the pupil services. So pupil services, as Superintendent Holthouse said, are SLP or counselors, and again, it's times by their average salary. And administrators are principals and superintendent, classified, as she mentioned, are like myself, or secretaries or paras. And so that's what drives this number. I know that's not maybe exactly what you were asking.
So can you do a dollar amount? Like right now, I think, don't we get about 10,000 per student with the whole district? Is that from what I remember?
Not necessarily, because we can't necessarily drive it per student, because again, kindergartners they take 40 students to drive a support unit, whereas 1st through 6th graders take 20 students, and the Grangeville High School, because of how big it is, it's 14 and a half students that drive it, and CVHS is 12 and a half students. So I can't say like what a number is per student.
Then how much do you get per support unit?
I could say last year we got about $143,000-ish per support unit.
Per support unit. So we conceivably, so that would obviously change if we have a smaller district. So
Not
Because the support units are
necessarily.
because our
changing.
support units, well,
No, not necessarily. That is derived off of the average salary. So that's not,
Okay.
yeah.
Like if you,
So it's really hard to pinpoint
If you
that.
take the $1,833,941, divide it by the total number of students in Clearwater Valley right now, which is roughly 236, it comes up to 7,770,936.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
Thank you.
That's the fastest way to do it.
297.
But
But to
that
her
is
point,
just the salaries, is not including the trailing benefits, and also per support unit, we get like 20,000 for health insurance and another 19,000 for discretionary funds, so the support unit brings in a lot more than just the salaries, these are just salaries.
That's just salaries.
Yeah.
So what do we get for, would our trailing benefits look like with what you have listed up there with our 21.43 units, and knowing the makeup of the students that we have, and you know the staffing that we have here, the teachers, how many certified, how many non-certified, how many, you know, whatever, you could work that up. Correct.
But the income's gonna be different because the staff is gonna be different. So,
Well,
because where the staff is how they gauge that payout. So if you have more veteran staff, which you have a lot of great teachers that have worked here for a long time
Right.
with high education. So you guys might bring in a little more than you have been bringing in. We don't know. That's the hard part.
okay.
Well, that is what I
Assuming we
changed.
have- Assuming we have the same staffing, nobody leaves, we have the same staffing, you know what our student, our average daily attendance is. You know what the state pays, we would be, as a community, responsible for some of the trailing benefits, correct? Because that was on the levy, right?
Yeah,
So that's what the levy is for, to cover some of the trailing benefits. All of, for a certain percentage?
it's any staff that's additional to these units.
What we, okay.
Yeah.
So, and how many teachers, those are our units, so how many teachers over that does CD have currently? Certified, non-certified?
I believe we have 27 teachers down here right now, is that?
You can't count Elk City because that one's a freebie.
But it is still
It's still
included in
figured
the
into
support
the
Right,
unit.
it's still figured in.
Yeah, so, hold on, I'm gonna freeze the screen.
That doesn't include bus drivers?
You guys wanna keep talking?
We're just watch you.
That doesn't support.
CV has 14 certified teachers. If you, CV junior high school has 14 certified teachers.
Are you including your counselor?
Not 15 with the counselor.
And then Melanie, you have 7, 8 with your counselor?
8 counts special education, and then we have 9
We
Okay,
should-
so,
and then if you count up to even that's 10.
And we should have one more. My former position, we were unsuccessful at getting a qualified applicant, so, we're working a little short-handed there, so that would add that to 16 technically.
okay.
So 15 for CD, 8 for the elementary, 9 for the elementary. How many was it for Elk City? 1,
So it'd be 26 total.
26 total. So we would be
So
5.
for our certified staff up here, we have 23.38 and 1.69 down here, so a total of 25, so you'd be 1 certified staff over.
1 certified staff over. Because the numbers they were talking about are those certified staff. So the 2143, I'm just trying to understand these numbers. The 2143.
It's gonna take more than a night.
Yeah, I understand, and I may want to sit with you, but I was just trying to see how I could figure it out. I may have to just come in and sit with you. Because you can explain it. I think the community needs to know, try to have a better idea of what this is really gonna cost us. And
as Carlos said, take into account if we lose 10 kids, if we lose 30 kids, what that is gonna look like with our state, with our ADA funding. I mean, I think we really need to have the numbers as best as possible. And I just think this is being rushed extremely fast. This is kind of what happened with Wiggins too, so. And in fact, I do have a comment. Wiggins has about 141 students. Their cost per student is approximately $20,000. They run a $500,000 to $600,000 levy every year. For what that's worth.
And since they've deconsolidated, they've passed a levy every year.
They have, but they're having
That's 70-something%. I do believe. I think I saw 73% they passed their levies.
Yeah.
What's the problems they're having?
There were a numerous amount of problems. They've had problems finding board members that aren't directly affiliated with the school for income, which is kind of like the fox guarding the hen house, I think, when you have all the people on the board that have it either are directly tied to the school for income or immediate family that is tied to for income. They still have the split, just like we have had with Grangeville and Kuski, with the levy and the bullying and the, we want this, we want this. They still have a horrible, horrible time with that. Those are a couple of the big things that they've had. So.
We've had problems filling board seats as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that's been.
In the levy,
Just because they don't have as many
divisiveness.
people.
I think that's human nature, the divisiveness maybe.
They have a smaller pool to find 5 board members than you
I
guys
think
do right here.
bullying's like a common thing, but Mr. Martinez has done an excellent job of eliminating CVA justice.
So can you answer why we're rushing it?
It's funny that I've heard since I moved here like 18 years ago.
People have been talking about it. I don't really.
We've been talking about it for 3 years. So basically,
seriously.
the levy will run out in '26, which is when you would be deconsolidated and into your own district, right? And I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm not saying that. You will be out of money at that time, and by that time, you're going to want to run another levy, correct? Because we're going to be short, I'm sure. And who's on the chopping block? Us and Elk City. Let's not forget Elk City was on the chopping block as well. So when they don't want to go with Kuski, just remember they were also on the chopping block. So either we can take our chances and form together, or we can be on the chopping block in 2026. And so if we don't do it now and we vote in May, then it'll be further down the road.
What was the percentage of Kuski that passed it? Because I don't know.
Hold it passive. That number is, on this, so the last one, in 24, it was
That's
474, 470 people voted for the levy, 730 people voted against the levy in 2024.
That's
That
all
is
of the
just,
CV area.
Just Kuski, yeah, the Kuski area.
So 1,100.
CV,
All of CV or just the Kuski?
CV area.
That does not include absentee ballots, correct? There's no way to tell that.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, that would be that's the total.
No, because the absentee came at the end.
Oh, absentee, okay.
So some
Okay.
of them could have been absentee ballots that are from QC that could have passed it.
Definitely.
We don't have a correct number.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, yeah.
I think Elk City was really close.
Yeah, Elk City was 63 yes, 62 no.
But again,
Yep.
when
Again,
it's really important that when we're looking at those numbers, we know that absentee ballots are not divided by precinct. Absentee ballots are placed into one chunk,
One
separate from
section.
the precincts.
I think a lot of people do vote absentee, and so we don't get that correct number. So when we say, we always say Coos taxes does not pass by a huge amount. There's a huge number of people that do not, that vote absentee, so we don't have an accurate number.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think those numbers would change, if people knew that their money was going to their local.
Community and their local school.
I've had people tell me that. I will never vote for yes on the levy unless we're separated.
So I have a question.
She has one.
Oh, go ahead.
And the percentage of market value shown in that chart actually should, to some extent, improve that chance of the levy passing in the valley.
Possibly.
It's cheaper.
185 to 115?
Right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. It does make it more affordable.
And there are people who have said that they would vote for a levy if it was separate.
Yeah.
Some of you.
Mm-hmm. And
7 minutes before we move on to our next meeting.
then I got a
So what would the timeline be if, first off, when does this have to be turned into the state? You're gonna make your decision on July 6th? Or November 6th?
November 6th, yeah.
July.
Like November 11th.
I just come back in time, sorry.
I think it's November 11th.
I think it's yes.
November 11th.
Yeah.
So what would be the next, say, whatever, for whatever reason, you had to redo some stuff, and you missed that time frame to get it on the May ballot. What would be the next time frame to get it on the November ballot, and what would that time frame look like in finishing up the deconsolidation program by the 26, 27 school year?
So it's about,
It's typically about 3 months prior to the election that the question has to be, or it has to be directed to the county commissioners. So 3 months prior to November, but it also has to be approved by the State Board of Education. I don't know that calendar off the top of my head.
It would be about July. If we missed the May deadline, we would have to have everything back to them by July in order to get it in November.
I feel like it would be. I
To
feel
the
like
state.
it's- Okay, August. I think it'd be August.
Their meeting would be in August, but we
Yes.
have to get it to them in
So,
July.
yeah, to the
Yeah.
Board of Education by July. They'd make a decision in August, then it would go to the county commissioners.
Yeah.
And it'd be on the November 25.
Correct.
Ed?
So
Back
my
room.
question is,
I guess with those 5 positions that are over, what is going to happen there? Are we going to try and fund those through the levy, or are those going to be positions that are going to have to be cut? Since I guess it is the 5 positions that are over, and how would that work? And then my other question is, since there has been a history, absentee or not absentee, of CB not passing this area, we're saying that people will say, yes, we will vote because it is in our school area. But if it doesn't, what is going to happen to our schools? What's going to happen to our students? What's going to happen to this community? Because that's a big issue down here for all of us, is if people, because we look at this area and we look at the maps and we look at what's happening and the people that we are going to have. And so if we are the smaller district, and as this woman, I don't know, Cindy pointed out, if we have Salmon River, we've seen, has gone mostly online. And we've heard that talked about, and we've seen what an impact that has for our students, being online all the time. That's not something as educators and as parents we want, is our students to be on the computers all the time. And so that is a huge impact for our schools down here and our community. So what happens if we're not passing these levies? What impact is that going to have? Because we know that Grangeville's going to probably pass. We see that. We see that working. What are we going to do? Because we're looking at that for our community, and that's a huge impact for all of us. And that's not something that as parents as educators we want to have. And so that's a big thing for us here.
You think that Grangeville is going to pass, but it has not passed. And this, to get it to pass this year by as little 200 votes or whatever it was, it took a group of 20 people so many hours for the. Grangeville is not a guarantee, just so you know. That is. I live in Grangeville and I have little faith in it passing again, truly. But that's just me. But secondly, we've already seen this town. We've already seen our communities without the levies. We haven't passed levies in a very long time. So, I mean, we just did, but previous to that. So, we have to try something else. The system is obviously broken right now. People have not been voting for the levy for a long time. Why not try something else?
Can I jump into, I believe it's 1.5 positions over, was that correct?
Yeah, I thought it was
1.5 positions over, certified teachers over, not 5.
Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
said 21 point something.
But then Carly showed you where there was some others.
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah,
It's 1.
so,
This additional FTE down here, the 0.5 is because you're under 40 support units, so they give you an additional half of support unit, and then the additional 1 is for Elk City. They just get 1 because of how small they are, so that jumps it up to the 23.38, and that's for our teachers. And then the people services, we get the 1.69 for counselor and potentially an SLP. So those two combined are 25 support teachers, and we have 26 right now. So we just be 1 over.
So that's one thing, just
Two principals?
one position over. And then
But
the
the
next part of your question
principals-
is, how would that look? And that would be your 5 trustees that represent your local area. All 5 of the trustees would be from the Clearwater district, and so they would be best informed and most knowledgeable about making those decisions about what that school looks like. And what it, and God forbid, a levy fails. Because unfortunately in Idaho, they only fund schools at about 74%. That's a fact. Talk to your legislators, write to them, whatever you need to do, because they need to fund a full, free, and appropriate public education. And I do that. And so I ask you too. So unfortunately, the legislature only funds about 74%.
but
So-
you went and asked about the principals, and so again, you get another half because you're under the 40 support units, so it does fund 2.1 administrators, and so they're covered. Truly, I think what another issue with the state is the classified staff, the paras. I think that's
Really where it hits us. I mean, right now, we're only funded for like 26 classified staff, and we have 87.
That is a discussion at the legislature. How they fund paraprofessionals is,
Ridiculous.
like a full-time parapro doesn't count as 1 FTE because they work 8 months out of the year, or 9 months out of the year, and so that whole formula is wonky too, and they are working to try to address that. But as I wanted to say, what does it look like? It looks like what your community wants it to look like, because your 5 trustees are local. And I don't have skin in this. You all know I'm a short-termer. I'm not making the decision. You have that vote in May or whenever it comes to the ballot. That is your decision. But a small government runs a smaller government runs a smaller community better. So the smaller the community, the more nimble you are. Think about minnows in the ocean, or think about the whale in the ocean. You have a lot more flexibility as a small district, but you also have some more risk as a small district. I'm not going to not recognize that. And again, I call this a divorce because it is. It is difficult and it is painful, and we have to just really focus on what's best for kids across the board.
One last question.
I would just, as somebody who is a graduate of this school, whose family ties specifically to this community go back 55 years, my husband is a class of 67 graduate. I play cards with a guy who was in when the building burned and we had to consolidate, went to school in bars. It's never been a good marriage. That's what I'd say.
And I also was going to say, one thing, and this just dawned on me like a second ago, If Clearwater Valley is a school district and the 5 trustees run that school district, Clearwater Valley High School won't be on the chopping block because it's your high school.
Right.
What it looks like, however, will. So again, it's your vote, please. I'm a big proponent of get out and register and vote. Our first election, our November election's coming up soon. Go there, you can register at the ballots. Bring 2 current forms of ID and residency. A form of ID and a residency within the 30 days, please vote.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for coming.
to the bathroom before we start.
We have to do our next meeting.
Okay.